Hi, Tammy. Good morning. I had a false start this morning. I think Facebook is being a little crazy today. Plus, Sarah was on this morning, so I didn't really want to compete with her, so I figured I'd wait a little bit. Hi, Christina. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Hi, Darcy. How you guys doing today? It's rather chilly here in Maryland. Good morning, Robin. I have like a hodgepodge of projects to work on today. We'll see what we get to. But I've been doing a lot of like looking through comments and suggestions. Hi, Linda. Good morning. Good morning, Barbara. And seeing some ideas that you guys have. So today we're going to kind of do like a little mix of things. And I had a couple ideas that we could do for like a touch up to a card we did last week. Bonjour, Debbie. Debbie, are you contacting me from France? I love it. Good morning, Brina. How you doing? I got all your messages, so I got your some of your suggestions in queue here. So before we get started today, I just want to let you guys know, if you leave a comment, any comment, I'm going to be giving away some Pool Party Glimmer Ribbon and a pack of Sprinkles Embellishments. And I think I'm going to throw in a few sheets of last year's Celebration Glimmer paper. So I know everybody was loving that stuff. Good morning, Cindy. Oh, just waking up in Washington. Thanks for joining. Hi, Gina. Thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate the sharing. So this whole new Facebook changing their algorithm now. If you comment and you comment like something different, if everybody says like, yes, 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 apparently that makes you spam. But if you get shared a lot, it keeps you kind of higher on the notification platform. So if you guys share my video, then it's more likely when I go live to tell you that I go live, even if you're subscribed, which is crazy. So I appreciate all the shares and the words and the hearts and everything. Thank you guys very, very much for that. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to just go over just a couple quick things while we're waiting for everybody to join in, and then we'll get started on what we're going to make today. So in case you are at the tail end of information, if you do start a prepaid paper pumpkin subscription, even if you already have one, you are eligible for for celebration items. So for a 3-month subscription, you would get one item. I'll bring this up so it's a little bit closer. For a 6-month subscription, you can either get two level 1s, which are the 100s, or the 50s, I apologize, or one level 2, which is the 100. And then for 12 months, you can either get 4 $50 items or 2 $100 items, or you could get 100 and 3 50s, whatever. You know what the combination is. You get a lot of free stuff. So if you have any questions about that, you can do this. You can take advantage of this if you already are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber. And I wanted to show you that because I did my my Paper Pumpkins in February, and I just wanted to kind of show you guys. I got a few extra kits, so I do have two extra February love notes kits. I believe that's what they're called, heartfelt love notes. I do have 2 for sale. They're $19.95 plus shipping. First 2 people to ask about them, I can send them to you. But so you get your stamp set with it, which you can use this. As you guys can see, I did use this for my Valentine's blog hop card. It's got a lot of different uses besides just the Valentine's, but there's a lot of extra stuff left. So you really can make, there's a couple of vellum pieces, there's some stickers. You can make a lot of other cards. You get your dimensionals with this. It's got these beautiful little embellishments. They're like a perfect plum and I think flirty flamingo, plus it has this really, really pretty ribbon, which I'm really hoping they add next year to the annual catalog. But it's a thinner, so it's not as thick as the silver that we have. Let's see if I can grab that. There's also a ribbon that's in the catalog that's silver. So this one is copper. It is a little bit thinner, but there's a lot of this left. I mean, you could make a lot of ribbons or packages or whatever out of this. And then the other cool thing, Patty Bennett actually shared the other day. She said one of her customers was buying a whole lot of this ribbon. And she finally asked her, she was buying this, I should say. She finally asked her, what do you do with it? And she takes the Stampin' blends and she colors it so it coordinates with whatever project it is that she wants to use. So for example, if you were to take, and we'll say, so this one's silver, so you could add probably a little bit more to it, but if we added the silver, and we'll take, I'm just going to grab, what is this, Bermuda Bay. So say you take your Bermuda Bay, your Stampin' blend, Now, granted, this one's going to be a little bit darker, so you could use the lighter one depending on what kind of a project you wanted to go with. But you can color your ribbon. So then you could have ribbon, again, that coordinates to whatever color it is that you want to use. So if you wanted to use the lighter one, I'll grab this one real quick. You could take the lighter one. You can even do like an ombre ribbon if you wanted to. You could do a rainbow ribbon. But you can see, you can color your ribbon, so then you have silver edged ribbon in whatever color it is that you want. So that's a really cool tip, which I kind of think I saw somewhere before, but you know, there's kind of things sometimes they drop into your mind, and a lot of times we don't have all of the colors that match whatever it is that you want. Kind of the same thing with using your clear embossing powder to make something the color you want. But so you could dye your ribbon, but anyway, there is a good amount of this left, so you could do that, and then you could have copper edged ribbon. So I made these actually for my my son's class for Valentine's, and these are really, really cute. They have the little envelopes that come with them, and even with making these bows, I still have this much left, and a lot of little doodads. And I did go a little crazy with some of them. It wasn't like I was being skimpy. But anyway, another plug for the paper pumpkin. I really like this one. Actually, I've really liked the past 3. A lot of times I'll get them and I have like a stack of them that I've never put together, but I really have gotten into them lately. So again, if you're interested in paper pumpkin, that's something that you could do. Another thing you can do for celebration, number 1 is join my stamping team. I'm part of Team Stamp It, which is ultimately under Tammy White. We also have Linda Cullen, Elizabeth Thatcher, Julie Jagia, lots of talented ladies, just to name a few. And if you join right now, you get to pick $125 worth of stuff for $99, free shipping, and you get to pick 2 extra bonus stamp sets. So you could pick Message in a Bottle. You can't pick Celebration. That's one that doesn't count. You could pick a background stamp. It doesn't matter how much they cost. It doesn't matter what they are. You cannot pick a bundle. So you can't pick something that has like a die set with it, and you can't pick Celebration. But pretty much anything else is absolutely up for grabs. And you would get to be part of a fabulous team. We do lots of things like blog hops and card swaps, product shares, all that kind of stuff. So that's really fun. If you have any questions about that, you can shoot me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com, or you can simply send me a message here on Facebook. And then the other way to get Celebration is if you are a party hostess or a host with a qualifying party. It can be an online party or it could be a in-home party. I do live in Bel Air, Maryland, so if you guys are looking to start a stamp club, but these you get Celebration rewards depending on your sales. So that's another way to take advantage of Celebration. And you guys know that if you buy anything in the catalog, $50 or more, you do get to pick something out of the Celebration. There's lots of fun stuff in here. I was looking for the peacock because I wanted to show you something, but I'll have to save that for next week. I cannot find where I put her. But the peacock, everybody loves the, this set is great. Happy Wishes. I'm going to use that today as well. You can get the dies. I just ordered the Amazing You. It came in with a party that I did recently, so I'm waiting to get that. That's a really great stamp set. Linda did a really amazing card with this, and actually kind of did a modified version for my stamp class last month. And the Party Pandas. Everybody loves the Party Pandas. So there are just a few things. If you have any questions, you know, you're always welcome to send me an email, send me a message on Facebook. Again, you can always reach me at rachthestamper@gmail.com. And again, so the February, I should say, the January paper pumpkin, I have 2 of those kits left. If anyone's interested, they are $19.95, and then I could ship it out today, which is about probably maybe $6.95, something like that. But anyway, on to, let me put this down so I don't trip over it, on to what we're going to do today. And again, if you guys leave a comment, any comment, I will do a drawing. And I will do it either at the end of today or tomorrow for some pool party shimmer ribbon. And then I have some sprinkles embellishments. These are really fun to add to any kind of a project. You could make a shaker card with them. You could adhere them to the front of your project just for a little bit of glamour. And then I'll add in some of the Celebration Glimmer paper from last year. I still have some of that left over. Coincidentally, the Celebration Glimmer paper that they have, this that is in with the Magical Myths, this color right here, which is like a Bermuda Bay, this is the same one that was in last year. So if you really like the blue in last year, these match exactly the same. So then you also get the green, which is kind of more like an old olive. And then you have like a, it's not really Dazzling Diamonds because it's got a lot more of an iridescent color to it, but these are really, really pretty. Fun way to add in some touches of glimmer, and you can trim them, save the rest of it. You could make like a little frame window out of this. So I have so many little pieces over here. I have a lot of wave pieces. I haven't done anything with those yet, so I have to figure out something to do with those. But this, the blue is the same as the blue that was last year. So if that was something that you really liked, you can get the blue again. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things. This one we're going to save for the end. This is the marble background, the rainbow marble background that we made last week. But I thought of a really cool idea that we could kind of do for Valentine's if you wanted to do something a little out of the box. So we're going to use the Celebration Happy Wishes stamp set. This is a double stamp set that you get for free. This is one that you get with a $100 purchase. So I'm going to put this over here at the end and I'll show you that. And then what I was thinking was what we could do. Now, I gave this card away, so I don't exactly have the card to show you. But last week, I made a card for someone in my son's class, and I made it like an aquarium tank. And then I went over the front of it with clear embossing powder to make it look like it was wet. And then I cut out a little window frame. If you guys haven't seen it, I did post a picture of it on the Facebook page, but we're going to make that today. However, I'm just undecided. We could add in the mermaid instead. We could stick with the traditional fish in the fish tank, or we could always add in, you know, the octopus if we wanted to, and the whale or something. So I'm going to go ahead and get the black cardstock out, and I'm going to show you guys how to cut that up, and then we will go from there. Also, another thing you could do if you wanted to add like some water parts or even some sprigs of like some seagrass in the back if you didn't want to use this seaweed. This is the Fabulous Flamingo. I really love this stamp set just for the water and also for the palm fronds. I made a really cool card and I used the palm fronds. This is really, I love water sets, but this kind of reminds me of like Florida, being at the beach, all that kind of stuff. Thanks, Cindy. I'm glad you saw that. It was really cute. It was really fun to make. And honestly, that card came out of nowhere. I was thinking I wanted to make a water card, but I really wasn't 100% sure how I wanted to create it. So I kind of just started stamping and then boom, there it was. I will tell you, when you're making this card, the black paper, I did find that for me, it was a little bit flimsy. So what I ended up doing was I trimmed out my aquarium tank, and then I actually backed it onto a whole nother piece of black. So you could do black, you could do white, you could do something coordinating, but I'm going to show you how I did the window card, and I'm sure there's a much more mathematical way to do it if you'd like, but I just kind of eyeballed it, and this worked pretty well for me. So what I'm going to do, let me just scoot these over. I'll show you how to do this first. So I just started with, this is a half sheet, but we're going to go to a quarter sheet of cardstock. So I made this 4 by 5 1/4 is what we're going to be going for here. So we're going to just trim this to 4 by 5 1/4. So technically you could make 2. You're just going to trim this one up, but this is a half sheet. So if you wanted to make 2 of these at the same time, which is usually what I try to do, it will make it work out better. Now again, this is going to be up to you. So some people like things to be very, very precise. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not really one of those people, because a lot of times I kind of end up doing it as I go along. So it's kind of like however it ends up is how I usually end up with it, unless it gets ruined and then I have to start over. So if you'd like, you could take your a pencil, because you should be able to see this, just a mechanical pencil, and you could take a ruler. Now I do use this T-square ruler. I actually got this on Amazon, and it's really nice for one reason I actually really got it was for lining things up on envelopes. So say for example, if someone makes a purchase, what I usually have been doing lately is I've been making my own envelopes. And I got this idea from Christina Werner. She's super talented, makes envelopes. Hers are way more creative than mine. But if you purchase from me, I will usually send you a very nice thank you with something included with it. So I kind of decorate the front of it. But then the lines, you don't want to have like a sloppy written address. So what I will do is I will take my T-square ruler and I will just draw a few lines. So for example, you can line this up. It'll be nice and even. So you could put the name. I just put a very light line, doesn't need to be dark, and that way I do it in pencil so it can be erased. And then I'll put the address line, city, state, and oops, that's not lined up right, and the zip. So then all you have to do is you fill your information in, and then you can erase the lines, and it'll be really neat, and they'll be like, wow, she is really good at writing really straight addresses. But I do also use this T-square ruler for other things. So this is very helpful just because of getting things straight with the T. So if you wanted to, again, what you would do is you could figure out how you want your your aquarium tank to be. So if you were to do that, you could take, and I'm just going to eyeball this, it would take about, maybe, that's probably about a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 inch. And then you can kind of go along the whole way. We'll do another one here. Go along the whole way. And you could make your square, this is a little thinner here, you can make your square to trim it out. Now, the way I did it was probably a little bit of the lazier way. So what I did was I lined my corner up here with the 1/4 inch mark on the trimmer, okay? Now, I'm doing this from my phone, so I can't really zoom in and out, so I'm going to bring that up to show you. So I lined my paper right up with my 1/4 inch trimmer. And then what I did was, it is a little bit more difficult but with the black, but what I did was, I will show you this in a, let me show you a white piece. Another thing you can do with this is you could put a piece of white cardstock or a piece of white tape. That way it makes it easier for you to see the numbers here. But then basically I just started down from a 1/4 inch and then I drew my line down. So this will make more sense but once I do it, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. So if you go with your 1/4 inch is going to be here. So I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch. Okay, so I have it lined up to my 1/2 inch. And then I'm just going to pop this in so maybe it'll make it easier for you to see. You will grab your trimmer part right here. And you're going to move your trimmer, what did I say that was, a 1/4? To a 1/4 inch, which is right about there. And then you can kind of just slip this paper out. Okay, just like that. And then you're going to cut down here to about a 1/4 inch. So you can kind of just eyeball where you are. So we'll go, now this will be a very thin border. Okay, so we're going to cut down to right about a 1/4. And then you're going to do the same thing here. Just like that. And again, mine is more so just being eyeballed. If you want to measure it, you absolutely can. And this is looking already a little bit like I started off. So again, if you would like to measure, you certainly can measure. It's completely up to you. But the other thing that I did was, so now it's going to just pop your square. Well, it should pop. Hold on. Might need just a teeny bit of snipping because I think my lines weren't lined up. And again, when I do this, when I put this post on the blog, I will explain again about how if you wanted to measure it out. And what I'll do is I will do it with a piece of paper that I put the measurements on so you can see it. And I will take a picture of that just so that you can get a better idea of what it is that I'm getting at here. But generally, you won't have these little scrappy pieces. So you have your little square, okay? Now, if you do anything, like for example, when I was doing my first one, I kind of did it again by the seat of my pants and I had a couple little cut marks. So then what I did was I just trimmed out some of the seaweed and I put it on the outside. So it was kind of like an aquarium, but 3D, if that makes sense. So I just do these as I go to see how it is that I like doing them. So if you don't like doing things this way, you can certainly be more precise. I'm just not really that much of a precision type of a person. Okay, so now I'm going to just take a 1/4 sheet of Whisper White. So this will be 5 1/4. So this is going to line up exactly 4 by 5 1/4. You can always save these pieces if you want to use them to like stamp your sentiment or whatever on to add it to the front of the card. And we're going to keep this because we're going to need to stamp some of those little fish. So now what we're going to decide is, okay, fish or mermaid. So I guess you really wouldn't have a mermaid in the tank unless you had a really fancy aquarium in your house. But what you're going to do is you're going to want to stamp your fish. If you want any fish to be sticking out, you could stamp them onto either a piece of masking paper or to a post-it note. That way you can cover them up and they will be 3D. Okay, so you could also take, if you had a fish, you could take a fish and trim it out. That way you can make a mask out of it. So we're going to just do this with this one real quick, and I'm just going to put some teeny bit of adhesive onto the back of it. That way when we are finished, we will have fish that are kind of in the background, fish that are in the foreground, and it'll give you more of that actual fish. I'm getting fish, okay. It will give you more of that actual 3D, like there are fish in the tank kind of card. So I'm going to just trim just this one out real quick. And this was just one that I probably stamped on something and punched it out and didn't end up needing it. So I just put it in the case just to keep it for later. All right, so here is this little dude. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back of him. And I'm going to just kind of rub over it with my finger so it loses some of the major stickiness. That way it's only going to kind of be more like a stick and release. I'm going to put a teeny bit on the tail too, just because when I'm sponging, I don't want it to get that the tail shows through. Okay, so for example, what we're going to do is we're going to stamp the fish first, and then we're going to put the mask on top of him. Other thing I noticed too, you can kind of do this more with the angelfish that's in this stamp set. Probably not right. However, I stamp him sometimes his correct way with his eye up, and then sometimes I stamp him with his eye down, just so you get more of, you know, fish going in different directions. However, again, this is me going on a sidebar. I noticed that you guys told me before to try to use the silicone sheet to do mirror stamping, and I really didn't think it would work, but then I saw somebody do it last week. So we can try that too, because you were right. I did see somebody do it, so that might work out actually more to get him in a mirror image without his eye being upside down. So I'm just going to wipe this off, and we'll give that one a try too. Okay, so first off, let's stamp this guy, because we have him first. That way we know where we want him to go. And what I did was, I'm going to stamp these, and then I'm going to stamp a couple extras. That way I can let them dry, because I don't want the colors to run once I color them in. So I'm going to stamp these in, where's my pad? Oops, sorry, my Memento ink. Okay, so I got my Memento ink here, and I'm going to stamp these guys, and I'm going to stamp a couple of them, that way I can trim them out. So if we'll put him down near the bottom. Okay, and I have one here already masked, and then we're going to do, let me do this guy, do the angelfish, and I'm going to try to do him as well on the silicone sheet and see if I can get him to turn out correctly. I know they said you definitely want to make sure he's inked really, really well, so I'm going to do this way first, and then I'll do another one on the silicone sheet, and we'll see if that works out better. Okay. So I'm going to do one more. Sorry if I'm shaking the camera. Make sure it's nice and inked. Okay, I'm going to put this down here just so I can get right at it. I'm going to stamp him on my sheet. I know you do want to make sure that you're really careful when you lift it up so it doesn't smudge. Yeah. So he's going to be just a little, you can see he's just not quite as solid, but it'll be good because we have something in the background. I'm going to huff just to reactivate, and I'm going to put him up here. All right, and kind of like a press, like when you used to have those little transfer. If any of you are from child of the 80s, I'm sure they had it in the 70s as well, but when you did those little transfer things, the rub transfer, see how this looks. Pretty good considering. Only thing is I got a halo, but we're going to cover that up so that won't be a problem. One thing you can do if you want it to be darker, is you could just take your black Stampin' Blends marker, and you could kind of just fill this in a little bit. I'm not going to fill it in too much, only because I know we're going to cover him over with some ink when we sponge, so that's not going to be as big of a deal. And also it will cover up my little halo line. So when you do this on your silicone sheet, do make sure that you don't rock your image. Just try to go straight up and down. It does probably take a little bit more practice, since that was the first time that I did it, but worked better than any of the other suggestions I had, better than the window sheets and everything. So that was from, oh my goodness, I can't remember her name. She's fabulous stamper. If I think of it, I will give her credit, because she's the one that did the little France Martin. She did a little bit of a thing on that, and I was like, wow, that really is a good idea. All my Stampin' friends were right. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to give this a minute to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp just a couple of these fish just to mask. So I'm going to do it with, what did I do with my angelfish? And these don't matter if they're not dark, because you're really just going to be trimming them out. So we're going to do 1, 2. We already have this one. I'm not going to do him. And then I'm going to stamp, while I'm at it, let me stamp one more. I'm going to stamp, where the heck's the other dude? Oh, he's in here. I'm going to stamp this guy. I'm going to stamp 2 of him, because we're going to actually trim him out and put him on the front of the card. And while I'm at it, okay, while I'm at it, I'm going to do the seaweed as well. And you'll see why. These are kind of just for depending on if you want to cover something up if you goofed. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give these these guys a minute to dry because these are just going to be for masks. So I'm going to go ahead and trim out the angelfish. And then we'll work on these other ones in a minute. And these don't need to be, you know, they don't need to be exactly to the edge. You could, if you're going to cut them a little bit smaller, it's really not going to hurt anything, because you're going to want, you're just really using them for masking, which the other good thing is you can use them over again. So if you wanted to do these on a Post-it note, you could. Again, if not, you could do them, either add a little bit of snail, and they're going to end up all different colors anyway, so you could reuse these multiple times. They also sell masking paper, so you can kind of get masking tape. It comes on a roll. It's a little bit thinner. It's about an inch. Let's see, it's about an inch or so wide. So this is masking tape. So basically, you stamp something on here and you trim it out, so you see that our fish wouldn't fit on there. But they also sell masking paper, and it comes in an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it's got a sticky back to it. And then what you do is you could stamp your image, and those you can reuse. The only problem is you have to be super careful when you peel them off, because if you're not careful, they will rip very easily. So you just kind of can only use your mask one time then. That's the only big thing about that. Talking to the plumber. Oh no, Linda, that's never good. Hopefully everything's okay in the plumbing department. We've had our share. We have actually a pretty new house, but I don't know. I guess sometimes when things are built, especially nowadays, they seem like they slap them together a lot more. We've had to replace our ring that keeps the toilet to the floor, I think at least 2 times already. And we're not big people, so it's not like we're doing like a lot of crazy hopping or jumping or plopping, onto the toilet seat, kind of like my grandfather used to do when he was here. But yeah, I don't really know. I think things just don't get installed as well as they should anymore, which kind of stinks. But we can always make sure we do an extra super job of our stamping. So that's why I say, if you like to be very precise and measure, go for it. Okay, so there's these two. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of snail on the back. And I'm going to just put this, again, I'm going to run over it with my finger just to kind of take some of the sticky off. You could also, if you wanted to, use the Tombow liquid glue, and you could let it dry, and then it's like a 2-way glue pen. So if you put it on there and you let it dry, it's sticky, like those little tabs that hold the credit cards in place, like when you get a new credit card. But the other cool thing about that is too, if you had a gift card that you wanted to add, that would be the perfect way to add it, because you can put that liquid glue on there, let it dry, and then you'll be able to put your gift card there so it doesn't fall out. I know a lot of times people are concerned that their gift card might fall out, so that's another way to avoid that. Okay, so let me just trim out my seaweed here, and we're going to get on with this little fish. So this is one of the fishes that we're going to put on the front. And again, I just wanted to make sure I had enough drying time for my ink. That way when I color it, it doesn't get smudged. And I am just using the regular Stampin' Right markers for this. That's the way I did it. And what I did was I just used a couple different colors, but I think I've been trying to play with them a little bit more like the Stampin' Blends. That way it's kind of like, if you figure out how to color with them, that way you can almost use them the same way. We're just going to stick with one of those for now. You can use them the same way. And it also kind of makes you a little better at your coloring, a little better at practice. Because the seaweed that I colored, when I was actually finished with it, I was quite impressed because it had a lot of dimension from color. However, I only used the Stampin' Right markers. And if you don't have the Stampin' Right markers, another thing you could do is you could use your blender pens and use your ink pad just to pick up the ink. That's another nice way to do it. And what I did with these, I noticed this after the fact, and it actually turned out really well, is I only trimmed them down to kind of like, probably about, I stopped at the bottom third, and I thought, well, it's going to kind of look weird because you're going to see this white. But then what I did is I just colored it in because it kind of blended like it was just another piece of seaweed. So let me just trim this one out, and then when I'm finished, I will trim out the other one and add it. Oops, get that a little bit. I don't want to rip that off. I'll add it to the finished card when I post it. That way I don't bore you guys with all my fussy cutting here. Another cool idea I had thought about, and the reason that I wanted to get out the peacock was, I I kind of recently, I know people have a lot of times a little bit of trouble with adhering vellum to cards because it shows. So I thought of another cool idea you might be able to use with it, and I haven't actually practiced it yet, so I want to kind of see what it might look like. But you could use a Sizzix adhesive strip or adhesive sheet, and I'm not sure what this would look like, but if you took your Sizzix adhesive sheet and you took like your piece of vellum, and so you stuck them together, you know, take off your paper, your release paper, you stick it together, trim it off. You might be able to stamp something and then trim it so your whole vellum sheet would be adhesive, so you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But I want to test that out. I'm not really 100% sure how good it is or isn't going to look, but I might do that after the fact if we have a little bit of time and stamp another one of these little seaweed dudes on here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our angelfish, okay, and I'm going to just put him right on here for now, just kind of sticking him to it. And I'm going to try to make sure that I'm a little bit lighter when I do my sponging, just so I don't get crazy and knock any of this off. And this guy doesn't exactly match, because if you remember, we stamped him upside down, so he would really be better done this way. So I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on him upside down, because I didn't think about that. I stamped him the other direction. Normally I would stamp him that way, so it would have worked. So I'm going to put this on here upside down, and I'm just going to be very careful with my adhesive. And then I have my last little guy here. I'm going to put him on here. I know he's crazy. He's a berry burst fish. You know, sometimes when you make fish in fish tanks, they are very colorful. Okay, so now what we're going to do first is we're going to start with our lighter color. So I'm going to kind of do something like slightly sandish. So I'm going to go with, I was going to do Daffodil Delight. It might be too yellow. I'm going to try Daffodil Delight first. So we're going to do a little bit of Daffodil Delight at the bottom, kind of for the sandy floor. And then we'll add a little bit of crumb cake on top to kind of give more of that sand color. So I'm not going to do a whole lot. I'm going to have it more water, but you know how you have the base of your fish tank would have a little bit of gravel on the bottom. So if you wanted to, you could also do a little bit of colored gravel if you wanted to have, you know, some people have that neon gravel. Our fish, which is a very small beta, has those little glass pieces in it, which are pretty neat too. So you could do anything to make your fish bottom. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to go over just with a little bit of crumb cake. And I'm going to be a little bit lighter with this, just so that kind of gives like the effect of like the sand and not really make it very dark altogether. Okay, so that's good enough. And then I'm going to start with Soft Sky. I always like to start with Soft Sky because it's a lot lighter. I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to move to Pool Party, and then maybe add in some Marina Mist or Tranquil Tide, just depending. So I just re-inked this, so that's why it's kind of with those dots. So I want to just make sure I don't have too much on there. So I'm going to just kind of go over this really lightly at first. That way I can kind of get the water line down here. I use my Soft Sky in my Pool Party a lot, so I do have to very frequently re-ink them. And that way it kind of also gives this like the depth of water. Okay, so we're done with that. So that was Soft Sky. Now we'll go to, we got actually even outline this in Bermuda Bay. I love that color too. We'll say my favorite of all time though is Coastal Cabana, so I really do wish they would bring that one back. What color are you guys missing? What is your favorite color? That would be great if they added that in the new catalog, like bring back an old color. Oh my gosh, I think there would probably be such a demand for different colors. They probably wouldn't be able to keep up with it. All right, so there's a little bit of Pool Party. And now I'm going to add in just a little Tempting Turquoise, just kind of to brighten up. And I'm going to put that more so near the top. Kind of top. And then I'll do maybe just a little bit down here at the C line. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, and I'm going to save the Bermuda Bay for now. Before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the seaweed. Okay, and I'm going to do those in Always Artichoke, just so they show up a little bit darker. Okay, so let me wipe this off. All right, so we have our Artichoke Bashful Blue. I've heard a lot of people say that, Bashful Blue. I don't think I was around when Bashful Blue was in. And I'm going to put this right here. And you could do these first if you didn't want these to be as colored, the seaweed, just kind of up to whatever it is you want to do. I added a few different ones in, just at different heights, different angles. could add some over here. And you got to remember, too, you have your masks here, so it's going to almost look like they're swimming behind them. So that's kind of neat as well. Bashful Blue. Bashful Blue. Oh, it's one of your favorites was Bashful Blue, huh? I'll have to look that one up now. I think that was a little bit, I must have been in a spot when I stopped really being super active in making cards, because I have made cards for 15 years, but, you know, there's a time when life happens and you kind of get out of it, so I completely understand how that goes. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this. In the meantime, I'm going to color my fish in, and I'm going to do him with Pacific Point and Crushed Curry. I have my other fish here. I'm going to do him with Pumpkin Pie, and I think maybe like a little bit of Tangerine Tango. And then the other one I might just fill in with a little bit of yellow, okay? And then we're also going to fill in our seaweed, and we're going to color this one as well. And what I did this one with, I did it with Garden Green and Pear Pizzazz, because it gave really good contrast between the two colors, okay? So I'm going to do, let me show you this one. I'm going to do this up here real quick. Now, pardon my head if it's in. I'm going to try to keep it out. But what I did was I kind of went along one side with the darker color. And it doesn't really matter what side. I just kind of filled in part of it. And here's the part where back here I was a little worried about the piece. So what I kind of did is I just filled it in with color and figured it would kind of almost blend to be part of the seaweed, but maybe like a little bit more of a background piece of seaweed. And just add in your spots. Okay, and then you'll take your Pear Pizzazz, and then I kind of just filled in the color a little bit, and it really gave a nice contrast to the two. You can always go back if you want to touch it up a little bit more. You could always do this if you wanted to with your Stampin' Blends instead, or if you don't have the markers. But it really gave like a lot of a depth to that. So there's just like a couple tiny pieces I need to cover with the white. Just little spots I didn't exactly trim out as well as I'd like to. And then I went back in with the fish tank and actually colored these in. So I colored them in just as they were. And they do already have a little bit of a base color with whatever they're stamped on top of, so their color will be a little bit different, which is good. That way they're not all the same, because if they are, then it really just looks like a very flat colored card. So we're going to go ahead and we'll color all this in, and then we'll go back in and add in a little bit of that Garden Green. Again, we stamped this in Always Artichoke, so you could use that as well if you wanted to. Or any of your Tranquil Tide would be a really good one as well. And then if you wanted to, while you're at it, you could always add like just some wisps of little pieces behind, maybe that just weren't quite as thick as what you did. Just adding just a little bit of depth, you know, different depths, different widths. This one will give a little bit of a floor too here, and I'm going to add that in a little bit more once we get our darker marker. Okay, so there's the Pear Pizzazz. And then you could do the same thing. So you can either use your fine tip, you could add a little bit underneath here, kind of just to give your seaweed a little base to lie on. And then just add in some touches of Garden Green. Put that over there a little bit more, a little bit at the tip. And they don't all need to have it. It just depends on what you like. Just bring a little bit more, because once we actually add the clear embossing to this is when it really makes it kind of come to life. Okay, so there's that. Now we're gonna just very carefully uncover our fish. Okay, so that way they're masked. So there's parts where they're behind, there's parts where they're in front, and you can see, I mean, that was just with snail, and there's no residual ink here whatsoever. And again, if now you wanted to go in, if you really weren't happy with, where did I put my black marker? Oh, here it is. If you weren't happy with your fish not being dark enough, you could go ahead and add this in. Wink of Stella, yeah, that's another great idea to add, Donna. That really makes everything super shiny, especially when it comes to fish, like even just the fish tails. And if for some reason when you color this in, I got fish sticking to me everywhere now. If for some reason when you color this in you don't really love it, you could always re-outline it too with the black just to make them pop more. So I'm going to go ahead and just do my my other little couple fish real quick. And some of these I kind of have at times looked them up online to see like what colors they are. I know some of these also have like will have a lot of purple in them. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one angelfish. I'm going to do the lighter one that I didn't add the ink to. I'm going to do him with the yellow. And then I'm going to add just a teeny bit of orange. I'm going to do pumpkin pie for this one. Just add it kind of at the bottom. Okay, so there's that one. And I have this fish here. Let me do him with a little bit of Pacific Point. And really, you know, just depends on what you want to do from it. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm sure whoever gets this card is going to be so happy. Because when you look at it, it really does look like you put so much effort into it. Especially if you end up going through with the clear embossing. It's really quite pretty. Okay, so that's a pretty crazy looking fish there, but that's okay. So we have him, and then this one, let's do him in some Tangerine Tango. I'm going to do his fins darker. I'm going to do this fin as well. And apparently some fish have like a spot by their face that's like a color. So that could just be the cartoon fish that I'm looking at too. You never know. And then I'm going to take my pumpkin pie and add back in a little bit. And I'm going to just fill in his little bit. And I think he needs a little bit of something else. We'll add a little bit of, how about Marina Mist? Kind of just to finish him out. These could quite possibly be the ugliest fish I've ever colored, but that's okay. We'll color them up. They'll be pretty in the end. My fish coloring skills need a little bit of work. There we go. All right. And then what we'll do with this last guy is, I know that they do have some of these angelfish that are considerably lighter, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a little bit of Bermuda Bay kind of to like the bottom of him. Kind of like just drag it up. Just kind of on one side. And we'll just do a little bit on the tip. On the top. Okay, we'll give him a blue eye. All right, and I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to make these more than they are and then I end up not liking what I made because I overdid it. Okay, so also in this Seaside Shore, that's a tongue twister, there's these little bubbles. I've added these before in a really light color. You could do them in like a really light pink if you wanted to. You could actually even do them in a, you could do them in Sahara Sand or Crumb Cake. Just kind of gives like that extra little bit of visual interest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try one in Flirty Flamingo. I know it's kind of pink, but with all the other colors there, it might not show up too bright. And I kind of just added them like as a chain behind. Like there's little, and I didn't re-ink it every time. There's little things that sometimes float in the water behind stuff. Just gave a little bit of something. Okay, so that's good enough. I don't want to overdo it. And one thing I did want to show you, though, which turned out really cool, is if you can see with this fish here, he's in front of this seaweed piece, which is cool because you just have all this different depth of field. So it makes your fish tank look real. So finally, I'm going to go ahead in with Bermuda Bay, and I'm going to just sponge just around the water part. Okay, so up at the top here. Just went around the water. Just to make sure there's no white showing on your edge. It's going to be covered anyway, but it kind of fills in a little bit more. Okay, and then I'll take the, I'll do soft suede around the bottom, just to give it a little bit of contrast. So we'll do soft suede just around the sand. Kind of give you like that algae on your fish tank look. Okay, so there we go. So we're finished with that. All right, so now I'm going to grab what I did the other day because I am like absolutely hooked on using Bermuda Bay now. These are like my last couple sheets of them, but I really love Bermuda Bay. It's so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 4 1/4, and then I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. So this will be my base. And I'm going to show you that one other thing we're going to do before we go. I'm going to show you. So we have our base card here. Okay, let me grab my bone folder. All right. So what I did was, and granted you're going to see, depending on what this lines up as. If you don't like it, you could always trim it out. but it should match up perfectly if you cut your paper correctly. So you're going to have things behind here, and then we're going to add some stuff into the front. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to all over heat emboss this. So I just want to kind of give this a second to dry. Let me put these two guys out of the way. And what we're going to do, you want to make sure that you have, oops, you want to make sure that you have something to stamp on that's not going to get ruined, because it's going to go all over your background sheet. So I'm going to take this one out for a moment, and we're going to go right here to this, which I already used. So you're going to take your Versamark pad, doesn't matter what it looks like, if it's nice and clean like this one or really nasty black like this one, they both work the same. You can always re-ink these as well. So let me grab, I just put this on the side. All right, let me see. All right, so I have my little coffee filter to catch my embossing powder. Let me make sure I have my clear. I have my clear embossing powder, and my heat tool is not plugged in. Bear with me one sec. Okay, ready to go. So I'm going to take my Versamark pad, and I'm going to just stamp directly onto this. Okay, now you got to remember we colored different stuff. So nothing is going to be flat like as if you were heat embossing something regularly. It's going to have different texture to it, which is good because you want something different. We're going to take our card. And this is where if you have a pair of tweezers, you could use that, but I just tend to dump it. So just dump it on here. Make sure you cover the whole thing. Whoops, just give it a tap. And then kind of grab the edge again, flip it over, and continue dumping until your whole sheet is covered. I'm trying to see, make sure I got everything. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to keep this because I'm going to need to order another one of these. I've been doing a lot of full sheet clear embossing. So now I'm going to turn on my heat tool, let it heat up. I love embossing. I know you guys know that. Embossing is like my all-time favorite thing to do. It's such a cool wow. Alright, so I'm going to heat this up, and you just have to make sure when you do a whole sheet that you really take your time. That way you get everything embossed, or else you're going to end up with like a dry patch. The cool thing about it too is that it actually makes your images that you might not have loved how you colored look so much cooler. Like I was not a fan of that fish that I did in the Tangerine Tango Pumpkin Pie and the blue, but it looks so much cooler when he's embossed. Alright, let me just check real quick, make sure I got everything. Oh, here's the spot. It definitely doesn't have the smoothness to it that it does when you're doing like a small image, but that's also good because you don't really want it to be smooth. Here's a spot here. You want it to look like water, and because of the way this actually dries when you heat emboss it, it really does actually look wet. Okay, so if you don't, again, this is a really pretty card. It really turned out really cool. I'm just trying to like hit it at different angles to make sure I heat emboss the whole thing. But you can see, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's definitely, it has a lot of texture to it. It's very bumpy and uneven. That is normal because of the way the ink is and depending on where you put your ink and whatnot. So it does look really, really cool. If you don't want to cover this with the fish tank part because now you're like, I can't cover any of it, just adhere it. And then you could just add all the little extra stuff to it. So at this point, make sure you don't touch it because it will stick to your fingers and it will burn. Trust me, I learned that one the hard way. Let me move this over just a tad. So if you were like, I love this, I don't want to put the tank, all you got to do is just put it on here, and then you could have a card just like that. So you could have just your Bermuda baby, your border, and then you could add your extra fish if you wanted to. Another thing you could do if you wanted to is you could go ahead and heat emboss this fish. That way he would be shiny as well. That's another idea of what you could do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this on the side just for a second. I'm going to put my frame around even though it's a little bit lopsided. Let me see if I can trim this just a teeny bit more. I'm going to see if I can just take just this little wedge off of here to make it a little bit more even because I kind of cut this a little bit goofy. Let's see. Let's try here. See what that looks like. Yeah, I kind of marled it up. There we go. That's better. It's not thinner. So you can see I have a little bit wider of a side, but that's okay. No worries. So I'm going to hit it with my fast fuse. That way I make sure it stays, especially with having that embossing powder. Plus this will give it like a second to dry. Ooh, that fast fuse is super sticky. And this last one, I want to put this, whoops, here. So I don't make a mess all over my paper, because I still have to use this for something. Just going to fold that back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just figure out where I want this. I'm going to lay it on. Just like that. Okay. And now, so if you have your little seaweed trimmed out, so if, say over here, so right here I can see a little pencil mark from where I did this earlier. Just erase that. So now I have like a little piece right here where there's a little mark where you can see I didn't cut it evenly. So what I'm going to do is just put him here. That way it'll cover that up completely. You could do it with a dimensional, or you could do it with glue dot or just snail or whatever. So I'm going to put him here. That way it kind of covers up that boo-boo. And it has this little piece behind it, so it makes it look very 3D. And then I'm going to add in my fish. I probably really should go ahead and heat emboss him real quick, which I'm going to do, because you know why? That's going to make it look cooler. So I'm going to just heat emboss him, and then you'll just make sure he's got good coverage. Let me just try one more time. Oops. Okay, so here he is, and I'm going to just drop him in here and dip him. Oh, crackers. Getting a little crazy. Of course, where's my tweezers when I need them? I have blue fingers covered with embossing powder. That's when you know you made a good card, right, everybody? All right, I'm going to heat emboss this. Just bear with me. Whoops, one more second. Let me grab something so I can hold him still. Grab my paper piercer. Come on, buddy. All right. That way, he'll look shiny as well. So it kind of goes with the rest of the card. Okay. So here he is. So let me flick this off. That little heat embossing, clear embossing powder kind of went haywire there. So I'm going to put this up on dimensionals because I think it'll just give it a little bit more fun factor. So I'm going to just put a couple of dimensionals. And we'll add our fish. And then we'll do that one last card I wanted to show you guys. Okay, and then you can add whatever little sentiment you want to put in the inside. I didn't add one to the outside of this, in all honesty, because I'll put him there. It was too cute. It was too cute to cover up. I really didn't want to add something to it because it was just so much fun. And then you could have also embossed your seaweed here if you liked. I have another one here that I didn't end up trimming out. So if you wanted to cut out another one, you could put it. You could even have put it behind here. That way it's like 3D. But you can add your other seaweed if you'd like. But it's really, really fun. And if you look at this really close, if you guys decide to do this, you can see in here there's like really shiny spots. There's bubbly spots. So it really does give a really super cool water effect to it. Okay. So I want to show you one other thing that I thought would be fun, again, with the full sheet embossing. So this is a card we did last week. I'm going to put this back in here because I'm going to need to do a dump again. That way I can get more and hopefully not ruin it. Okay, so we're going to do this one more time. This one I thought we could do with that rainbow. Let me see if I can pull her out wherever it is. Come out wherever you are. Okay, here is it that one? No, it's this one. This one looks super cool. So we're going to, this is actually already on shimmery cardstock, so it does have a shimmer to it, but I thought it would be more fun if we did the full sheet heat embossing. So what I'm going to do is, same thing again, this is what we did last week. If you missed it, you can go back and watch it, but basically we used the marble background stamp. We added a bunch of different re-inker to it, and then we stamped it onto a piece of shimmer white cardstock. Okay, so this is a little bent, but no big deal. It's not going to affect anything. So we're going to again take our Versamark marker, our Versamark ink pad, and we're going to stamp all over. And I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Oops. Same thing I just did. So I'm going to set this here, and I'm going to do the dump with the clear. Okay. And clear embossing powder. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need some more. Mine, I think, is coming to the very end of its use. I love rainbow stuff. It's so pretty. So fun. Especially after you have like a really bad storm. We've had some like beautiful double rainbows when we have a crazy storm around here, which is just incredible. Now, I will tell you, I have had this clear embossing powder for a while, and there is still a good amount left in it, but when you do a whole sheet, it definitely does use more. But that's the great thing. Stampin' Up's heat embossing powders, they last a super long time. Like, I've had this white, and I have silver and gold, and I only recently bought a new silver one, and I do silver a lot. All right, and also I did the combination of the silver and the gold to make the champagne, so I'll probably use some of it there as well. So we're going to just heat emboss this one more time. And make sure your embossing tool is nice and warm before you hit it, and it will help it to melt a little bit faster. And this is going to really, even just look at this. Just look at these two compared right here. Look at that, dull and shiny. So pretty. It's going to make all the colors really pop. And then we're going to add a really nice sentiment to this. And this will really make a pretty card. You could take this if you wanted to and cut it out with some thinlits, some framelits, some punches. But it's so pretty. I just want to use it as a whole background sheet. But that's another option you could do as well. Almost done. Let me just check. Oh, I got a big spot in the middle here. Take a look. I think that's just the color of that. Yeah, that ink is a little more washed out. Let me see. Let me go over this just one more time. I'm going to hit it from the back. Okay, so this spot right here is just a kind of washed out color spot. If you notice, it's got like not as vivid as the rest of it. It's just that the color there wasn't very dark. So now we have this, which is shiny, very pretty. And I'm actually going to put this onto, I think, a black base because it's really going to make the rainbow part stand out. So let me just trim this up real quick and we'll finish this card. So we'll do this one crossways. So I'm going to score 4 1/4. It's another thing you could do if you wanted to get two at the same time. Score it and then cut it, and then you'll have two bases that are ready to go. And we're going to just fold this. And another thing you could do with this, again, going to depend. I am going to put this down with some fast fuse, that way it really sticks to the base. But what I wanted to do was, I have this Happy Wishes from Celebration, and I really like the script on this. It's very pretty. So what I did the other day was, I think I showed you guys this one. If I can find it here real quick, is I did the I love you. Okay, so I used the I love, and I masked off something, and then I did use the you. So we're going to do that one again. What I think I'm going to do is, I'm going to do it in, I think silver would be really pretty. We're going to do this in silver embossing powder. Let me put this on the side so I don't wreck it. And we'll do it on a piece of, see, we could do it on black, but let's do it on a piece of white. So I'm going to just do it on a piece of scrap white. Okay, so I'm going to move this over for a second. So what we have here, which one was the one I used? Not that one. So I used the For You and the I Love Having A, and then I just masked them off. Okay, so you have a piece of Post-it or a piece of tape or whatever it is you want to mask it off with. So you will take, I did the I Love first, just that way I could line it up a little bit better. We're going to do it in Versamark. So if you're doing it with your black Stampin' Right marker, all you have to do is you take your marker, you just color that part in. But we're going to do this with Versamark. So I'm going to see if I can just do this one part. That way you don't have to worry about masking. And I think I got just a little bit. So I'm going to do the I Love. And then take this off, and I want just the U. Now it'll take me just a little bit of a minute to line this up to make sure it looks okay. So just bear with me because I don't want it to turn out too goofy. So I have my I love, I can see my I love there, and I'm going to add the U. Okay, and then I'm going to take my silver embossing powder and dump it. I should have used my embossing buddy. Make sure you do that. I really didn't do it with the whole sheet because there was so much being covered. But with this, I should have used it with this. So what I'm going to show you is I usually keep a little paintbrush here, and then I'll just kind of brush off the spots that I don't want to heat emboss. So any little stray pieces that you get, just take your little paintbrush, just like that. Okay, let me move this out of the way. I'll have another disaster. And then I'm going to heat it. Really pretty. If you have the Sweet and Sassy framelits, which are the hearts, you could totally cut this out with a little bit of a heart. I don't have those, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trim this out. So I think I'm going to trim it to a square. Let's see. And make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to bring it in just a little. Just like that. And you have, if you still have the Project Life corner rounder punch, you could use that. That is retired. If you don't have that, you could use your envelope punch board. And all you do is, so you use your envelope punch board for this portion of it. You take your little thing, and I don't see how it's going to work. It just rounds the corner, just like that for you. So you just have to have, you do have to have it that it's square, or else it could kind of turn out a little bit goofy. But there you go. I'm actually going to leave it like that because I kind of like the 2 point and the 2 rounds. So I'm going to put it on like that. All right, let me move this over. I'm going to put some fast fuse on here. This is nice and dry by now, but definitely I'm going to use a good amount of fast fuse so it stays flat. And I always try to make sure that I get it really nice to the edges. And one in the middle. And line this up. Let's see how we want it, and then just give it a really good press. Now another thing is, if this is not flat enough for you, you could take your two, just show you, it'll be a little bit easier. I'm not going to put my sentiment on just yet, but you can take your Big Shot and you will grab your clear plate. Now I will tell you, you definitely want to put this in a piece of paper before you run this through. So any scrap piece of paper will do. A little paper pumpkin thing here. So I'm going to just put this in here. Put your card in. Put your other plate on. And this also can help you too if you're having trouble getting something adhered. And just run it through so there's no cutting plates. It's just kind of basically making it nice and flat for you. Let me move this back out of the way. And then card will be nice and flat. So everything is nice and flat then. And all we're going to do now is just add our little I love you. And I'm going to put that on with a dimensional. And again, I think this is a very pretty card. So I kind of don't really want to take away from the center part of it. So I'm going to just put it at the bottom. And this is a card that you can actually do one of 2 ways. My cutting plates are a little lopsided. You could do it vertically, so you could have the card like this, or horizontally. So either way is good. I'm just going to put that right there. So that's a really simple way to do a Valentine's. You could just do a little bit of a marble background with a rainbow, or you could do all colors of pinks, all colors of blue, and then just the clear embossing over top of it. It looks really, really pretty. So, hi Tammy. That's okay. You're late. You can always go back and watch the replay. It will load back to Facebook, and you guys can watch it until next week if you'd like. So, thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or anything, please, feel free to let me know. If you would love to be a member of my team, I would love to have you as a member of my team, as Tammy just recently joined. All you have to do is shoot me an email if you need more information, rachthestamper@gmail.com, or you can also certainly send me a message here on Facebook. Thank you all so very much for the hearts and the shares and the likes and the comments and the loves. And if you did leave a comment, make sure you do before we hang up. I'll give you another minute here. You will be entered to win. I have some Pool Party shimmer ribbon. I have some sprinkles embellishments. And I also have some glimmer paper from last year's celebration that I'll throw in. So those will be the drawing. And I will draw for those probably I'll do tomorrow. I'll wait till tomorrow afternoon. So tomorrow, sometime in the afternoon, I will draw and I will post. And then all you're going to need to do is send me your name and your mailing address if you're the winner, and I will send it right out to you. Again, thank you, Margie. I appreciate that. Thanks, Darcy. Thank you guys so much. I will come back next Wednesday with some new ideas. I have a few things here. I know someone said to do some die cutting from an embossing folder, which I did get a new embossing folder that goes with the Myths, I believe the Myths and Magics. I can't remember which one it is, but I got that one, so maybe we could work with that. Someone else wants to have some ideas for Eastern Beauty, so I could certainly get that. We did get a little bit of mirror stamping when we did our fish, and I did end up using that, so if you guys missed that, with the silicone mat, so make sure you get yourself one of these if you don't have one already. It's got more uses than you know. And what else? Valentine's Day. So we got a little bit of a Valentine's card in here with the I love you. You could change this to all pinks if you wanted to, whatever you like. So thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it as always. Thank you for the shares and the likes and all the support. I will see you guys next Wednesday here at 9:30 live on Rach the Stamper. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome week. Brush show. Okay, Vicky. I can get on some brush show ideas too. I'm going to add that to my my little list right here. And then I will have a running list with some cool ideas to do. But yeah, brush show. I do like the brush show. There is a brush show video too. If you go back and look, there is one that I did with watercoloring. But I can definitely get on some more of those as well. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you soon.